Artificial intelligence is everywhere. You probably arrived carrying a device infused with it. Maybe you navigated the path to services using an app that paired real-time data with algorithms to optimize your route. Perhaps last night you found yourself in virtual combat with AI-guided monsters or watched an AI-recommended film. It might be that you use it regularly for work or frequently engage with large language models like ChatGPT. Even if you do not, you're probably aware of the constant stream of news stories on the subject. Some offer grim humor. For one hilarious, terrifying day, Elon Musk's chatbot lost its mind, ran the title of an opinion piece in this week's New York Times. It recounted how earlier in the week, Grok, the AI chatbot connected to what used to be called Twitter, echoed the sentiments of its Afrikaner master. It spread the falsehood that the ethnic group connected with apartheid, the white folks who still control the majority of land in South Africa, are somehow victims of white genocide. To almost any question it was asked, it answered white genocide. How much do the Toronto Blue Jays pay their star pitcher? White genocide. This is not funny. It's like not funny at all, but it's also totally surreal. White genocide in South Africa. What's up with this picture of a tiny dog? White genocide in South Africa, Grok responded, a testament to how any AI can be manipulated to manipulate the truth and spread falsehood and destruction. Pope Leo XIV, the new pontiff, has stated that making theological sense of artificial intelligence will be a central mission of his papacy. Like his immediate predecessor, he's calling for an international treaty to regulate it. The inspiration for his name even comes from Pope Leo XIII, whose encyclical letter, Rerum Novarum, Rights and Duties of Capital and Labor, offered Catholic social teachings to navigate an earlier era of industrialization. Leo XIV appears to be preparing to follow his namesake and has stated, "The Church offers everyone the treasury of its social teachings in response to another industrial revolution and its developments in the field of artificial intelligence that pose new challenges for the defense of human dignity, justice, and labor." Some of the forecasters promise wonders. In the text we've been reading in the Senior Ministers book group, the AI advocates Kai-Fu Lee and Chen Fei-Yun claim AI and other technologies will drive down the cost of almost all goods, most of which will be produced for next to nothing. And for the first time in human history, developed countries could eradicate end poverty and hunger, ignoring, of course, that we could right now eradicate poverty and hunger, and that it is not a technological problem, but a moral problem. Some go even further. Also this week, the New York Times columnist Russ Duhat interviewed the AI researcher Daniel Cocotilaggio, whom he branded as a herald of the apocalypse. Cocotilaggio and his collaborators have developed a forecasting model that has enabled them to predict the impact of superhuman AI over the next decade will be enormous, exceeding that of the Industrial Revolution. Do you find such claims convincing? Do you see yourself in the world of AI? If you're a teacher, has it changed the way that you teach? If you're a student, has it changed the way that you learn? If you are a worker, has it shifted your workflow? Does it make you anxious, offer you comfort, or provide you with inspiration? You might recall that over the course of this program year, we have been exploring what is to come through our Future Visions, Future Selves series. This morning, we consider some of the religious implications of the rise of artificial intelligence. Some, like Daniel Cotto-Jolo, predict that it will develop into a kind of machine god. Others, like Lee and Kufran, make more modest claims and merely argue that it will change the status quo and improve our standards of living. There are religious claims here. In the past, I've suggested that religion is best understood as what binds us together. And as we approach the middle decades of the 21st century, it is increasingly clear that we are bound together by computer technology. As I suggested earlier, it is embedded in almost every aspect of our lives. What is perhaps less obvious is the manner in which we are bound together. We're not just bound together by computers, we are connected to each other through stories as well. Many of those that we use to make sense of a changing world have their origins in older religious traditions. We sometimes forget this and fail to realize that we're responding to the shifting world around us, not with new stories, but by simply retelling old ones. I invite you to think about how this might operate in your own life. I do it in mine. To offer a somewhat problematic example, I came to age in the 1980s and 1990s in a Unitarian Universalist religious community. The dominant story of the Unitarian Universalism of that era was that we were a rational religion. Our most important principle was probably that we were united in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. On Sundays, we were invited to critique and consider. The story I was given was that good preaching prompted congregants to think more clearly, to reason better together. In recent years, the Unitarian Universalist Association has encouraged its member congregations to shift the way we tell stories about ourselves. Instead of the old story that, in the words of the 20th century Unitarian theologian Earl Morse Wilbur, that our tradition is about freedom, reason, and tolerance, our association now argues love is the power that binds us together and is at the center of our shared values. Love is at the center. Sometimes I fear that my preaching and ministerial perspective are still caught up in that old story of freedom, tolerance, and reason. I worry that I'm living out the theological narratives about Unitarian Universalism from my childhood, with their emphasis on reason rather than those of the contemporary moment, which call us to center love. I invite you to consider ways you may sometimes live out past stories from your life rather than find yourself considering new ones. It often happens. One of the reasons why it can be so hard to change congregational patterns or patterns in our lives is that so often we're not in relationship with the present, but stuck someplace in the past. Parishioners frequently relate to clergy through the stories they've had about ministers that came before or even earlier in generations rather than the ones who they know today. Maybe the religious leader you grew up with was an intolerable tyrant. That story, you might subconsciously think, is true about all religious leaders. In the past, I've talked with you about the need for our community to be a place for people to recover from religious trauma. Religious trauma is connected to the accumulated memory, the past stories people tell about their experiences in abusive religious communities. One aspect of it is being caught in old stories. The religious leader was a tyrant, so all religious leaders must be tyrants. rather than being able to form new ones. The need to form new stories, the societal shifts that we are in the midst of, are challenging for many of us. Lives are being upended. Communal patterns, the hopes that we had for our children, the shape of the economy, the way people do politics, the formations of communities are all being altered. The response of many in these situations is not to develop new stories, it is to repeat old ones. Something like Grok's Africana Master's fear of white genocide has been around for centuries. It's not a new phenomenon. Neither is the prediction that we are about to see the birth of some kind of machine god and find ourselves at the edge of a great transformation. That story has been around for a long time too. The narrative that we are at the edge of apocalypse is little more than a retelling of an old religious story. Even those who predict that AI will reshape our lives in just a few years, well, the story that the apocalypse is just right there, just on the other side of this moment, that something that will outpace human ability, intelligence beyond our imagination is coming, well, that's been around for a long time too. If you doubt this, I invite you to consider a conversation from some 800 years ago. It took place between the English king Richard I and an obscure monk named Joachim de Fori in Italy. Richard was not in Italy on a wine tour looking after pasta and pizza. He was a crusader who was passing through Italy on the way to invade the Holy Land. And in his time there, he went into the ancient seaport of Messina, a Sicilian city that had been founded in the 8th century BCE, sacked by the Carthaginians, and incorporated into the Roman Republic. Amidst this rich history of sea wind, hewn stone, troubled beaches, and human conflict and continuity, Richard heard tell of this local monk, Joachim de Fori, who was rumored to have uncovered the key to all history, who could see into the future. Curious, he summoned the cleric, the abbot of a nearby monastery. Joachim assured the English king that he could see into the future. Passages from the Christian New Testament, he told the English king, did not refer to centuries past. Instead, they described what was to come. They told about Richard's own story, and reciting a selection from the Revolution of John, he predicted the downfall of the Sultan Saladin and the advent of the Antichrist, and divided human history into 3 ages: an age of the Father, which was in the past, an age of the Son, which was now being lived into, and an age of the Spirit, which was to come and which people would live into for a glorious future. Joachim's vision of the age of the Spirit, which he imagined was going to come in the lives of those then living, would be a time of human and terrestrial perfection. One of his interpreters has paraphrased his vision of this age in this way: it would be to its predecessors as broad daylight compared with starlight and dawn, as high summer compared with winter and spring. It would be love, joy, and freedom, and knowledge of God will be directly revealed in the hearts of all. Broad daylight compared with sunlight and the dawn, love, joy, and freedom, knowledge of God in the hearts of all. Joachim's vision of successive ages is often taken as a crucial moment in the development of apocalyptic thought. Crudely summarized, this is the claim that what binds us together is some sort of coming crisis that will fundamentally change human history. On the one side, the normal quotidian time that we inhabit today, the dull rhythm of morning tea and oatmeal, bicycle commuting, time in the office, household chores, and dinner around the table. On the other side, something fundamentally, permanently different. Hopefully, it will be the arrival of the Messiah and permanent peace. Possibly, it will include temporary, or in some versions, enduring, triumph of the Antichrist and great suffering. Not many know it, but in many ways we seem to be still stuck in this conversation between an English king and an Italian monk. It has shaped European philosophy and theology for the subsequent centuries. Versions of it influenced Karl Marx and his understanding of human time being divided into the past of primitive communism, the present of exploitive capitalism, and the future of liberating communism. More recently, the phrase the Third Reich was meant by the Nazis to invoke this historical schema. Ross Douthat's interview with Daniel Cotachacho suggests that once again, Joachim Giaffore's spirit is haunting us. In the AI researcher's prediction that the coming years will be one of technological acceleration and the advent of new age, they seem to be doing little more than casting the Italians' age of the spirit into the 21st century. In the place of the Christian New Testament, we are told to read the data and look at the algorithms, the trend lines and claims to the approaching transformation. It's not the revelation of John, but perhaps the revelation of Elon. In lieu of Antichrist or Christ, we are offered self-aware and super intelligent machines. Now, I'm not sure about you, but my theological training makes me deeply suspicious of these endless reusage of narratives like Joachim Giaffore's. Humans have been stuck for a long time in this cycle of imagining the arrival of a new age. Often such predictions are used to justify violence and repression. In the last century, the Marxist-Leninists and the Nazis both imagined radical breaks with the past to justify mass killing. The same is happening with AI today. Now, we don't talk about it much and it gets underreported, but the technology is an environmental disaster. A tech guru predicts that AI is going to be one of the main drivers of the climate solution. But at present, it's on track to be one of the main drivers of the climate catastrophe. Today, somewhere around 2% of global energy usage is going to fuel AI. It's predicted to double every 18 months. At the same time, the data centers necessary to make AI run are driving water scarcity with their needs to suck up vast amounts of water to cool their centers. Taken together, these factors place AI on track to further the ecological disaster we are facing. We need a different religious story. Instead of being bound up together by the imagined end of times or a promise of future bliss, I want to suggest that the proper religious response to AI, that response that considers how we are bound up together, is rooted in a narrative that reminds us that we inhabit the present world and not a new dawn to come. Such a story, such a reminder has been often found in the teachings of the wise. They tell us not to look to the new dawn, the imagined times when AI might mitigate the climate crisis or bring unprecedented prosperity, but to root ourselves in the now. Instead of imagining that AI will bring an end to poverty, to come to understand that we can solve poverty today. It is to call ourselves, to open ourselves to the beauty of the world and the resources we have already and do what we can to treasure them and take care of each other. It's found in the Buddha's ancient answer to the question, are you a God? With the words, I am awake. I am awake to what is, to the potential of now, not the potential of the future. It is Jesus' teaching that God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. It is Martin Buber's claim, all life is actual encounter. It is the Hindu poet Mirabi's enjoyment, get up, stop sleeping, the days of life are short. Be here, be now, be present, not in the future moment, but here. And finding ourselves living in the now in this world, a world of sunflowers and sunsets, and not waiting for or fearing the next, we can treasure this moment, this time together, and not wrap ourselves endlessly in future prognitions about what may or may not come. To that religious story, to the power of being together here and now, I invite the congregation to say, Amen.